There are many people who have had that struggle of not having the person in their life who speaks the most. And by that, I mean they kind of have the most authority. They give the most direction. They lay down the rules. They expect you to follow those rules. Having that person available for a discussion, or having that person even accessible to say, hey, I just have a question about the rules. I'd like to know more about this. Well, and I know that availability and accessibility, they're not exactly the same, but they're really, really close. I can tell you this for a fact, though. Availability and accessibility are tools in the leader's tool bag that will lead to opportunity when they're used right. That's what I want to talk about today on Leading Leaders. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders podcast, and when you think about accessibility versus availability, there's a little bit of a difference. Accessibility might be the difference between whether or not you have an open door policy as a leader. If you've ever been in that role in leadership or management where everybody in the world wants to tug on your attention, everybody wants a minute of your day, and it may be the people from the corporate headquarters or the highest level of military command or the White House. They want your attention and they expect it when they demand it. But so do your toddlers and your spouse and your siblings and your parents. They all expect you to stop what you're doing and give them accessibility anytime they feel like it's important. And as a leader, it's one of the greatest commodities that you have and have to manage. Let's put it in the category of time. Accessibility in the category of time is a big, big deal. How much time can you give to the boss or the boss's 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 boss and to your toddler at the same time? Well, you only have so much to go around, right? But see, accessibility is even more than that. It's not just about the amount of time that you give to someone. If you've ever been pulled in multiple directions, you know that it's not just how much time it takes away for that one little meeting. It'll take 5 minutes. Anybody had that it'll take 5 minutes kind of meeting? That not only did the meeting take another 25 minutes or another 35 minutes or more, but it's the commute back and forth, or it's them standing in your office and not willing to leave after the 5 minutes is over. But even that, in the category of accessibility, is an entirely different thing when what they do is dump on your desk or dump on your mind, dump on your emotions, dump on your life, this drama that overwhelms everything else. It's one thing for somebody to say, I just need 5 minutes. I want to let you know they're repaying your parking space, so the valet is going to move your car. When you go to leave, it won't be in the same spot. Great. 5-minute meeting. Access for that kind of meeting, easy peasy, get out, I'm moving on with other things. It's another thing to come in and say, hey, I just need 5 minutes of your time. By the way, want to let you know that your VP was just caught in an affair and they're going through a divorce, but their spouse is threatening to kill them, so they're in protective custody. And hang on, okay, so that changes the whole world for a few minutes, right? That's not a 5-minute, it might take 5 minutes to tell you, but the news that you just got changes everything. And so when we talk about accessibility, it's not just the amount of time that I'm giving you access, but it's what you're going to do with that time when you get it. Well, let me take that one step further. Maybe accessibility means that you give access to people to come and spend time with you, come and ask you questions, come say things to you, and then you realize that that individual is somebody that you probably shouldn't have in the circle of accessibility, because every time they come, it's not 5 minutes, it's a whole lot of drama. How many of you have had to cut people out of your life because they can't simply take no for an answer? They won't let an issue that's been resolved go. They won't let it die, if you will. It's beating the dead horse. They just keep bringing it up. Even though it's a dead issue, it's done. We finished that. We moved on. Everybody on the planet has moved on, but you, and yet you have access to the leader and you just keep bringing it up. Oh, it happens in every size organization. From the military to journalism, from churches to public schools, from homes and families to small entrepreneurial businesses. There are people who live for the drama, and giving them access to you could derail your entire plan. Access is a huge deal. It's about time, it's about drama, it's about emotion, and it's about people. Access is about people as much as anything else. As a leader, you've got to know that. I also want you to know, though, that availability is when you make yourself not just accessible to others, but you extend yourself out to give of your time, to give of your knowledge, to give of your talents, to give of your ability to somebody else. And that willingness to go the extra mile, to extend yourself, to make yourself available, well, it has to be measured as well. It's the same kind of commodity. It's about how much time does it take? It's about how much drama will it impart into my life, or how much exposure will it give me? Then sometimes that exposure, well, that's a good kind of exposure. Sometimes that availability says, I made myself available to maybe volunteer for this project. It's a project that I look at, and honestly, it's not one of my pet projects. I wouldn't look at it and go, yay, I want to devote my life to this. But I look at it and I say, that's a cause that's in a close enough alignment to who I am and what I do and what I feel like I bring to the world and what my organization has to offer, and my availability to speak at this event, my availability to chair this committee, my availability to donate my time or my service or my knowledge. That can open doors that a check can't. There are times that just your willingness to say, I'll do that for you, will build relationships that you could never buy. You know, a lot of people would say any media coverage is good coverage. That's probably more true 2 decades ago than it is today. There was a day that if you could just get on the front page of the paper, it didn't matter how or for what, getting on the front page of the paper was great real estate. Now you can get on the front page of the paper by tying your shoes wrong, and they will use that often to destroy people in a public light because they have no shame to lie about you. So getting that press, getting that face time, getting that exposure usually is a good thing, but not always. But it used to be that if you could get that front page time, that news coverage of your efforts, that a PR release, a press release, or a wire release would get you on the front page of all these papers. Well, you can't buy that in advertising because most papers don't sell above the fold. Most magazines, whether they're online or on television or in print, they don't sell that cover as an advertising space. Can't buy it. That kind of exposure can't be paid for. But availability can get you in that spot. Donating your time to charities, donating your skills, your talents, even your team members sometimes, the availability of your team. People would say, hey, well, they're trained by so-and-so. They've got the same kind of credentials as, they've got this great talent. They've got this inside secret too. We'd love to have them. That availability, making someone available from your team, is almost as valuable as making yourself available. And both availability and accessibility lead to opportunity. Now, sometimes they lead to opportunities to get distracted. Sometimes they lead to opportunities to cost you a lot of money. Sometimes they lead to opportunities to pull you away from the greater vision that you're working on and suck you into somebody else's vision. They all lead to opportunity. When they're capitalized on wisely, when you have someone on your team, and maybe it's you, maybe it's a time manager, a timekeeper, a great executive assistant. I remember hearing John Maxwell talk about, and Zig Ziglar also talk about, how they had that, for lack of a better term, that gatekeeper. Zig Ziglar called her the redhead. And the redhead was very specific. The redhead was his wife. It is ironic that Laurie Majors, his right hand, was also a redhead, but that wasn't who the redhead was. My mistake. Laurie Majors guarded Zig Ziglar for many, many years. Many, many years. Now I know Laurie. She is a sweetheart of a woman. She is sharp. She is intelligent. She knows the business. She knows the Ziglar business probably as well as anybody in the organization. I have regular emails with Laurie. But I'm going to tell you this, if you try to get somebody's attention in the Ziglar organization, you had to get permission first from Laurie Majors. She knows exactly what she's doing with that organization. And although she may not have been the head person, the availability and the accessibility of Zig Ziglar was approved by, was given by, was granted by Lori Majors. That is a big deal. And if you're a great leader, you have someone like that in your life. Someone to say, hang on, I don't just give out his phone number to anybody. Oh, I'm sure you just want to go for a walk with him. There were a lot of people who built a great relationship with Zig Ziglar walking around the block when he went on that kick in that same season of his life and said, I want to live longer and I'm going to do it by losing weight and exercising. There were a lot of people that joined in on that, or on the golf course or in his Sunday school class. That person to help you manage who has access to you, who you make yourself available to, what kind of things do you give your time and a talent and treasure and attention to. Having somebody who is your right hand to help you do that, powerful. John Maxwell has that kind of person in his life as well, and that person has been a huge part of his life. And they help him to look at things and go, yeah, this individual has been in your office a couple of times, and would you like me to help you manage whether or not they're back again, or whether or not they're actually making any progress? Now, obviously, the end game is that decision is made by the leader. That decision is ultimately the leader's responsibility to make. But having that person who thinks like you, who portends to have the ability and says, hey, look, I'm going to project what I know to be true about this leader into this conversation. And I'm going to say, chances are that's not a topic they want to discuss today, because I know what else is on the agenda. I know the emotional track of where that's going to go. Excuse me. I know how intense the emotions are in all the meetings that they have planned, and I know what kind of mental white space is needed for this teaching, for that presentation, for this book writing campaign that is underway right now. And because I know all that as their assistant, I'm going to tell you they're not available for that kind of meeting. They're not accessible for that kind of conversation, and it's just going to have to wait. Or I know enough about them to know that is not something they're going to want to be invited to. You can invite them. Obviously, you can put them on the guest list. Chances are they're not going to attend, and I know that because I know them so well. We would all treasure having someone like that in our life who can, for lack of a better term, read our minds and say, yeah, that's probably not the greatest opportunity for them, and it's probably not going to work out for you inviting them. Keep your powder dry. Work on that relationship a little longer. When you understand them a little better, then making an opportunity available to them could benefit you well. As a leader, you've got to manage the commodities of your availability and your accessibility. Who do you allow in your life? Who do you give time to? Who do you give attention to? Who do you allow to invest drama in you? That's accessibility. Availability. Who do you extend yourself to outside of your daily obligations, the projects that you're working on, the goals and the visions of your organization that you're personally committed to, the things that you have to get done? When you step beyond those things and make your skills and your talent and your influence available to somebody else, that's a huge investment in somebody else. Deciding who you're accessible to and who you're available for are enormous. They both lead to great opportunities, and some of those opportunities are positive and some of those opportunities are negative. Eventually, I recommend that you have somebody like Lori Majors or like John Maxwell's right-hand person who knows how to discern before they even ask you whether that's going to be a great investment of your time or if that person should have access to speak into your life today. Until you get there, just know, as a leader at every level, you have to manage your time, your emotions, your psyche, your focus. It's all on you. And where you put that availability, where you put that accessibility, that's a huge decision that you're going to have to make every day of your life. And if you don't start now, you won't be real good at it when your time and availability are even less. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.